In Lesson 2.9, we're going to work on comparing problems using multiplication. So you will need your whiteboard marker, and eraser, along with your math journal. Remember, a lot of Unit 2 deals with multiplication, so continue to work on mastering those facts. So go ahead on your whiteboard, and you will number 1 to 3. You'll see some extended math facts here, where we'll figure out the basic fact and add zeros on the end. So go ahead, number 1 to 3, and do not write down the problem, just write down the solution or the product of 90 times 50, 80 times 90, and 200 times 6. Go ahead, pause the video, write down the solutions. Number 1, 9 times 5 is 45. And then I add 2 zeros on the end to give me a product of 4,500. Number 2, 8 times 9 is 72. And I add 2 zeros behind it to give me a product of 7,200. 2 times 6 is 12, and there are 1, 2, 3 zeros behind it for a product of 12,000. Go ahead and wipe off your whiteboard. Today we're going to again review some drawing of angles, line segments, and perpendicular lines. So please number 1 to 4 on your whiteboard. Number 1, you're going to draw an angle and label it ATR, angle ATR. Doesn't matter if it's acute or obtuse or right, but make sure you're careful with labeling. Number 2, draw a line RG. Here's a bit of a clue right there. Number 3, draw a line segment KM. A bit of a clue. And number 4, draw a pair of perpendicular lines. I'll give you a little clue. It has to do with a right angle. Would you please number 1 to 4 and go ahead and draw each one of those 4 things. Pause your video while you do the drawings. For number 1, I don't care about the size of the angle. What I want you to pay attention to is angle ATR. The most important thing is that the T is the vertex where the 2 rays meet. So R can be here, A can be here, or those can be reversed. But T needs to be where the 2 rays meet. Line RG, you need an arrow on each end and at least 2 points labeled R and G. A line segment has a beginning point and an ending point and no arrows, and it could have more points than just the 2, but you need to have at least K and M on there. You could add others if you wanted to, but don't need them. A line segment, line, and ray are named with 2 points. And lastly, perpendicular. Perpendicular lines cross or intersect to form a right angle. All right, go ahead and erase your whiteboard. The math message says, be prepared to explain how the problems differ from each other. So in problem A, we have Linda sold 9 bookmarks. Paul sold 8 more than Linda. How many did Paul sell? If I look at that piece of information, 9 and 8, and also the word more than, I know that that symbolizes or cues me into addition. Problem B, let's read that. Linda sold 9 bookmarks. Paul sold 8 times as many. So I notice that the numbers are same, but there are words there that indicate if Linda sold 9 and Paul sold 8 more, we would know that Paul sold 17 bookmarks. The word more than means to add. Now, if I look at problem B, Linda sold 9 and Paul sold 8 times as many. So in this case, he sold 72 bookmarks. The difference is the wording in times and more than. So this would be what it would look like. Let's try this one. During the summer, Darren read 5 times as many books as Julie. Julie read 8 books. How many books did Darren read? Well, here's some important information. 5 times as many books. And Julie read 8 books. On your whiteboard with me, I want you to write what this would look like. We're going to J will stand for the number of books Julie read, and D for the number of books that Darren read. Well, Julie read 8 books. I could actually draw what might look like a book. She read 8. Darren read 5 times that much. So he read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times as many. So if I were to draw a picture, how many books did Darren read? Darren read 5 times 8, 5 times as many, which is 40 books. Write that on your whiteboard with me. Next, go ahead and wipe off your whiteboard. The distance from Pedro's house to the library is 3 miles. The distance from Pedro's house to his aunt's house is 27 miles. The distance to his aunt's house is how many times as far as the distance to the library? Well, the distance to the library is 3 miles. How many times would that be if I compare that to the 27 miles it is to the library? What it's asking is, how many times 3 is it to his aunt's than it is compared to the library? So 3 times what gives me 27? You may use your multiplication chart, but I know that 3 times 9 equals 27. It is 9 times as far. She lives a long way away. This is what it might look like in a picture as well. Now we're going to go ahead and work in our math journals, and you're going to open to page 55. Page 55. On journal page 55, you're going to use a diagram or a drawing to show the relationship between quantities if needed. Write an equation with an unknown, which is what we call a variable, a lowercase letter, to represent and solve the number story. So number 1, it says it takes 3 hours to fly from Chicago to Alberta, Canada. It takes 4 times that amount to fly from Chicago to Buenos Aires, Argentina. How many hours does it take to fly to Buenos Aires? So here's what I would do. Go ahead and circle 3 hours in your math journal and circle 4 times. So we know that we are going to be using multiplication. We know that we have 3 hours and then 4 times that amount. So you would go ahead and write 3 hours that it takes to fly from Chicago to Alberta and 4 times that amount. Now it asks us to put a variable. So we're going to I'll put B for Buenos Aires. Then it asks for the answer. Your answer is over here, mine is below. But the answer is, what is 3 times 4? 3 times 4 is 12 hours. If I were going to show that with a diagram, I might show the 3 hours, and then 4 times that amount would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 12, or 3 times 4 is 12. The answer is 12 hours. Number 2 on journal page 55. Use a diagram or drawing to show the relationship between quantities if needed. Quantities means how many. Write an equation with an unknown to represent and solve the number story. Shar used her chalk to draw a line that was 6 feet long. Diego's line was 36 feet long. Diego's line was how many times that, or as long as Shar's? Well, again, let's circle those 6 feet, 36 feet, and we're asking how many times as long. So if we know Diego's is 36, write this in your journal, and Shar's is 6 feet long, it's asking how many times is Diego's. And I'm going to put the lowercase d to represent Diego, the solution, what we're trying to solve for. So what times 6 would give me 36? Remember, if you need help with your multiplication chart and reading that, let me know and I can help you. So the answer is, and your answer shows over here, 6 times 6 equals 36. So it is 6 times as long. 6 times. Again, if I were to draw it, I would show 6, and I would show 36 for Diego, and I would have to figure out how many times longer it is. Now we're going to complete the table. In the first column is a comparison statement using words. In the second column, we have an equation that we're going to write. And in the third column, we're going to draw a diagram. So 3A on page 55 says, go ahead, let's take out the words and put it all in numerical equation. So times as many, we're going to use the multiplication symbol. So 4 times 7, and we're going to go ahead and solve. What is 4 times 7? It is 28. What would that look like in a diagram? Well, we would take 7 and we would do 4 times as many. So we need that 4 times. That's what it would look like as a diagram or a picture. In letter B, we are given the equation, and now we're going to use some words. We're going to say 6 times as many as 5. You also could say it 5 times as many as 6. That would be the turnaround fact. What would that look like as a diagram? Well, I could take 6 and I would do it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You also could do it this way as well. You could do 5 and do it 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because 5 times 6 is 30, and 6 times 5 is 30. Lastly, letter C. This time it gives us a diagram, and it says R is the number of t-shirts Randy sold. K is the number of t-shirts Kristen sold. Randy sold 11, and Kristen sold 4 times as many as Randy. So I'll start with Randy sold 11, and Kristen sold 4 times as many. What is 11 times 4? 44. We'll write that in words. 4 times as many as 11. You're going to go ahead and go back to your Schoology folder for the rest of today's math assignment.